Rick Horrow, business of sports, business of entertainment, business of money, more important than anything else. And obviously we just came off of a very successful, economically anyway, Super Bowl. One team played defense, a half a team played offense, and all the corporations played catch-up or stay ahead given their expectations. We have one of the companies that's been very active in the retail space, and the CMO, Marisa Thalberg, obviously Taco Bell, a big Super Bowl campaign, and also a big brand awareness, part of a larger situation. More important than anything is the business brought to the table as far as Taco Bell and beyond. A good example of retail using sports to push product in a high-quality way. Marisa, how are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Awesome. CMO, Taco Bell, big company, appealing to consumers. Tell us a little bit about the demographic space. Your job is basically Chief Marketing Officer with a brand orientation, and what you try to accomplish with any campaign. Then we'll get into the Quesalupa Super Bowl ad campaign after that.
So as Chief Marketing Officer of Taco Bell, I think our goal is to appeal very broadly because as much as we think of ourselves as being in a category of one, we are on a practical level part of quick service restaurants, and there is a mass appeal to them and mass distribution. At the same time, when we think about a target, it's a lot more of a psychographic for us than necessarily a pure demographic. And in that sense, there's just a wonderful, youthful spirit to this brand that I think we very much look to for inspiration and embrace in all of our marketing.
Is the Chihuahua your idea?
The Chihuahua is long gone, before me.
See, but the idea of that resonating with an old dude, that's probably a good thing, although I suspect I'm not in your demographic sweet spot. But that's another entirely different question. We're getting to the Super Bowl, and everybody's spending so much money on activation and the highly celebrated $5+ million for a 30-second ad, which you don't necessarily have to do to identify with and around the Super Bowl. Given that scene set, tell us kind of what the expectations were around the Quesalupa ad campaign around the Super Bowl, and did you meet those expectations?
Yeah, well, I think one thing that's incredibly important to note is you see a lot of marketers who make it the strategy in and of itself is to be in the Super Bowl, and they and their agency partners spend the better part of a year saying, what are we going to do for the Super Bowl? And that was not at all the math or the strategy that we were practicing. What happened was we were working on what we knew from all test results and all indications to be a very, very significant impending launch, and something with a lot of complexity to bring to the marketplace. It took the better part of 3 years to figure out actually how to deliver this innovation. And as a result, when we finally got to the point where it was ready to roll, we looked at the timing and realized it was going to be the beginning of February and said, wow, that coincides with the Super Bowl. And that seemed like a little bit of a kiss of fate and, kind of meant to be that shouldn't we be launching our biggest news of the year on the biggest, cultural event and media stage. So that's important because it meant that we weren't, retrofitting something for the Super Bowl. We were taking something that already was a very significant introduction for us and laying it into the Super Bowl. Once we made that decision, though, and to your point, it's a very expensive financial decision, you do start to behave a little bit differently. You do start to calibrate your tactics and your strategy a little bit around the fact that at the hub of all this is going to be this very high showcase media exposure.
And obviously, Marisa Thalberg, CMO of Taco Bell, it's a make or break for a lot of companies. Yours is not. Clearly, your financial strength far transcends that, and clearly AB and Pepsi and some of the big guys. But every year there's a notorious advertiser that spends a healthy percentage of his ad budget on activation and the 30-second time, and that ad agency is no longer the ad agency of record, and on and on and on.
Yeah.
How important? Yeah. So give me your expectation set of using a mega event like the Super Bowl to define a campaign or define an important part of your marketing reach.
It's not for the faint of heart, because you are making this huge investment for all the reasons why you love it. It's also why it's stressful. You sort of feel like all eyes are on you from an industry standpoint, from a consumer standpoint. But again, in an era where consumer attention is just so unbelievably fragmented, the Super Bowl does represent this very unique moment where people are not only not rejecting the advertising, the advertising is part of the event. So it does make the pressure to deliver creatively, a bit outsized, frankly. It starts to feel a little stunty. My feeling is we just wanted to tell a great story that really was about the product, and a lot of people are just kind of doing more of a brand stunt at that point. So it's tricky, and you're right. The sort of business calculus of it is, it's hard to say. But in our case, I feel really, really good that it was exactly what we needed to do. We have metrics to suggest it was a great decision already.
So the bottom line of those metrics, and I know you're not, and really we're not asking you to share that. We respect your confidences, but you sit down the Monday after the Super Bowl and you probably have a gut because you know the buzz. But then how do you evaluate, what are the standards generally, and how long does it take you after a mega event like that to gauge whether a campaign has actually been successful or not?
Well, the interesting thing about this business, and it's different than other categories in which I worked, is you kind of know right away. So you turn advertising on, and within a few days, we know whether we've hit or missed based upon what's happening in the restaurants with sales. And we've got an incredibly forecasting team that's been doing this for a long time. So I feel like I'm operating with more business intelligence in that regard than I've ever had. But, in this case, you're looking at a few different things. So you're looking at business performance, and then you're also trying to understand how much of that is because you did a good job in creating the right kind of advertising. So, I'll share a few things that are data points. Like, we knew 2 days out that we had achieved ad awareness with strong purchase intent that was as good or better than what we would see on a good campaign 10 days out. So that's where you start to realize that the scale and reach and the impact that we had in Super Bowl really got this thing off to a strong start.
So come Monday afternoon, Tuesday morning, you're feeling pretty good, unlike the Carolina Panthers. You just sort of never feel like you can exhale because this business moves super quickly. But I think what's been really encouraging, I would say that night being in the war room with my team and just seeing the response in social media, we were feeling pretty good already in the sense that, the response to the advertising, we had also done a pretty strong pre-launch the week or so leading up to it. And we did, I'm not sure if all your listeners are familiar with this, but we did an industry first. We allowed people to pre-order. That's a trick from retail, but it's never been done in QSR. We allowed them to pre-order this big new innovation and have first bragging rights, just like people want with like in the new Apple phones. The glitch was we weren't telling them what it was. They were pre-ordering blind. And I think nothing speaks better to the love and fandom that we have, that we got over 71,000 pre-orders blind. True blind faith. So by Saturday, the day before the Super Bowl, those people who had demonstrated that faith were able to go into restaurants and try it first. So the case loop was already leaking out by design in social media. The people that wanted it the most got first bragging rights. And so we were feeling pretty good that the response was just really enthusiastic, really positive. And then the response to the advertising was terrific. And we got some great data. According to TiVo, we were the third most watched ad in their panel of the night. So all in all, I think we accomplished what we wanted to accomplish, but it's not something I feel like it is for us. It's not a yearly strategy necessarily. Well, certainly it would add to your stress level on a yearly basis, and you probably don't want to add that. And that TiVo study was interesting because you can track the job requests around the industry this week and last week, and it's all kind of the bottom 10 on that ad meter from TiVo. So that's kind of easy to figure out. How important, a couple more for you, how important is social media to your overall campaign? Clearly, it's trending in the direction where, years from now, TV might almost be an afterthought. But what is the mix today? How important is social versus traditional?
Well, I think I've been kind of a bit of a digital and social pioneer in my past life, and one of the things that drew me to join the Taco Bell team is just how amazing this brand has been in social media and building such an authentic, creative relationship with its fans. So I feel like it's a huge part of what makes this brand special and gives it a bit of a cult-like status is you just kind of can't, you sort of can tell the difference between brands that are trying too hard and brands that really understand how to connect and engage. And so I consider it hugely important. I consider earned media hugely important. And if my team is doing their jobs right, our paid media is, a priming of the pump of more earned.
And that makes a lot of sense from a lot of different business perspectives. You've been Estee Lauder and a lot of other in the area. What is harder, marketing food or marketing beauty?
Everyone thought it was, I'm sure, really, it was an unusual kind of transition to go from luxury beauty to fast food. But, the way I look at it as a marketer is I went from products people crave to products people crave.
There you go. That's the right answer.
Actually,
yeah, sure.
Less dissimilar than you might think.
Interesting perspective. Kind of the last piece of this, too. You obviously don't stop at Super Bowl. You don't have to reveal long-term plans. But, Grammys, other things, you are an incredibly diverse company. And I assume the marketing techniques that you employ and the demographics you reach transcend one Super Bowl mega event, and they touch a whole bunch of other things that you guys do on a regular basis, right?
Oh, absolutely. Listen, media is just a very important driver of awareness and trial and sales and repeat. So we have a strong media plan, a strong marketing and advertising plan, and we just launched Quesalupa on the Super Bowl. As I had to remind our team, because you do put so much work into it, is like the marathon didn't end on Super Bowl Sunday for us. The marathon began the next day when Quesalupa went on sale. So our challenge actually is to make sure that unlike other Super Bowl advertisers who do kind of do it for the stunt and then the conversation quiets down and everyone's moved on, like we really want to keep the momentum and enthusiasm and awareness and interest up high. So Grammys actually is a great example of we had a great unit bought on the Grammys this past Monday night, and we debuted a new version of the spot just 1 week later of the campaign. And there's all kinds of stuff we're doing in digital. We're about to do something that I believe is an industry first with Facebook to extend the campaign. So for sure, this is about now building on and continuing the momentum that hopefully we've just gotten underway.
I'm sure your team loves the idea that after one marathon, you task them with just beginning another one, and certainly people will continue to look at the days of the Quesalupa. We haven't even begun to hear enough about it. Well, Marisa Thalberg, thanks very much for this CMO Taco Bell. Very successful campaign. More to come. Rick Horrow, talk to you in a few minutes.